But first, here's my interview with Senator Bernie Sanders. Senator Sanders, thank you for joining us here on Straight Talk. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you for having me.
Tuesday is Oregon's primary. How important is it to you to win in Oregon?
It is extremely important. And I hope that in your mail-in ballot process, as many people as possible will vote. I think, in fact, if there is a large voter turnout, we are going to do really, really well. If there is a low voter turnout, I think we're going to be struggling. So to my supporters, please fill out that form and get it in. We need to see as large a voter turnout as possible for what is a very important election for us.
A lot of people think of the Northwest as Bernie country. We saw you win big in Washington. However, a new poll out shows Hillary Clinton with a significant lead over you, 15 points, 48% to 33%. What do you make of that poll?
Not much. I think the fact that it is this is an election in which independents can't vote. We do very well with independents. Makes our life a little bit more difficult. But my impression, having been to the beautiful state of Oregon on many occasions, having won the endorsement of Senator Jeff Merkley, I think we can win in Oregon. But again, what we need to see is non-traditional people sometimes do not vote, making sure that they are participating in this election. So I would hope that as many working people and young people understand that now is the time to stand up to establishment politics, establishment economics, and create an economy that works for all of us, not just the 1%. And by the way, the need to reform our broken criminal justice system and our corrupt campaign finance system. These are issues we have got to deal with, and that is what this campaign is about.
You've campaigned here 3 times. Most recently, you were here Tuesday in Salem to a huge, enthusiastic crowd. And when you were in Portland, a bird even landed on your podium, and that video went viral. How would you describe your experiences here in Oregon?
It's fantastic. I mean, we have had just incredibly large turnouts. You mentioned Salem, Portland, elsewhere. People have been beautiful. And we very much very much appreciate the support of the birds of Oregon as well. That was a very remarkable experience.
That was quite a moment. Senator, we have a homelessness crisis in Portland. I don't know if you saw it when you were here, but people sleeping on the streets, tent camps popping up in neighborhoods across the city. There was a time when the federal government played a much larger role in helping people with shelter who were in need. If you were president, what do you see as the role that the federal government might play in addressing homelessness?
Well, you're absolutely right. The federal government has got to step up to the plate. This is the United States of America. This is the nation which is the wealthiest nation on earth, but we have more income and wealth disparity than any other major country, and that's wrong. We have introduced legislation that was passed that provides for the construction of low-income housing. We need to build low-income housing all across this country. Legislation that I introduced was passed. It is now being funded, and I want to expand that. In America, people should not be sleeping out on the streets. We've got to build affordable housing.
Senator, Oregon has legalized the recreational use of marijuana, yet a lot of marijuana businesses can't get bank accounts, they can't get trademarks because they run up against a conflict with federal law. How would a Bernie Sanders presidency deal with federal marijuana law? Would you change it?
Yes, absolutely. And in fact, we have already introduced legislation to do just that. Right now, marijuana is listed as a Schedule I drug under the Federal Controlled Substance Act. I've introduced legislation to take marijuana out of that act. Marijuana possession should not be a federal crime. So I think our legislation or other types of legislation that I'll be working with will address that problem. Where states want to go forward and legalize marijuana, they should be able to do that. And people who own those companies or own those shops should be able to use the banking system.
You've made a lot of promises, Senator, about free college, Medicare for all, but they're expensive promises. The Tax Policy Center has estimated that
not free college, not free college.
Free tuition?
Well, I just wanted to say it's not free. It's free tuition at public colleges and universities. If you want to go to Harvard or Yale, still going to have to pay for it.
Well, the Tax Policy Center says, though, that your promises add up to about $18 trillion added to the national debt. Isn't that dangerous for the economy?
Well, it would be, but unfortunately, that analysis is grossly inadequate for a number of reasons. When you fight, and the major discrepancy, of course, takes place over their views on a Medicare for all single-payer program, which I strongly support. They very much underestimate the amount of savings that we can bring about through administration. Right now, we spend and waste hundreds of billions of dollars in billing people and all kinds of administrative costs. They underestimate the savings that take place when we substantially lower the cost of prescription drugs. The pharmaceutical industry is now ripping us off. I would mention to you, by the way, that there have been other studies out there which show that their conclusions are erroneous. And second of all, that the groups that did this study that really criticized my views on a Medicare for all single-payer program, they are heavily funded by Wall Street and in some cases by insurance companies as well. So I would take that study with a grain of salt. I happen to believe that health care is a right of all people. I think it's absurd that we spend far, far more per capita on health care than do the people of any other country. And I believe that health care, a Medicare for all system, would be a huge step forward for the United States of America and have us join every other major country on earth.
Thank you, Senator Sanders, for joining us on Straight Talk.